Hello and welcome to the New York Empire podcast presented by the Greatest Ultimate Bag. I'm Dan Hilton and I've got not one, but two new faces to the New York Empire with me, though they are no strangers to the AUDL. Welcome to the show, Ethan Fortin and Charles Weinberg. How's it going, guys?
Going great. Thanks for having us, Dan.
Yeah, it's going well. Thank you.
All right, so they joined me on a Thursday afternoon. This will come out Monday, but these are the two new signees for the last week that you have seen. And I want to kick it off because both of you are commuting from Massachusetts to play with the Empire this season. And I do have to ask, other than an enjoyable car ride, I guess, for games and practices and a train ride as well, what went into the decision to play for the Green and Black this season? Ethan, you can go first.
Yeah, I have a good relationship with a lot of people on the team, including co-coaches Charlie Hoppus and Anthony Nunez. I played for them in Philly for a long time. And we have been talking back and forth about, this being a possibility. And it's always exciting to come down and get to compete with one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, for me, Ryan, Osgar, and Benyat definitely had a big play in it. But it just seemed like the thing to do. You just move from Minnesota and you play for Empire. It's just fitting.
Yeah, I mean, for Charles, I mean, it is a little bit of a joke, but it's also not. Connor Klein played for the Wind Chill in 2016. Yacht 2014 through 2016, Osgar 2017 and 2018. You played 2018, 2021. And I guess you could even count Grant Lindsley back in 2013. And if there is an AUDL Hall of Fame someday, I don't think Grant Lindsley is going in as a member of the Wind Chill, but certainly, yeah, so many Empire to Wind Chill connections there. And yeah, to that point, you've both played with current Empire teammates in the past and played for even coaches. So just for the listeners at home, can you provide that list? And I also am adding the caveat here for that's just those players that have been announced. So if you see somebody that they've played with in the past that we haven't announced yet, there's still some in the rumor mill, few players, but just with the players 11 or 12 that we know about.
Yeah, so I played with Ryan Osgar, Sub-Zero for a couple of years, and Wind Chill as well. And then I played with Benyat my fifth year of college. So when I moved out to University of Minnesota, and then Charlie Hoppus as well. He actually coached the first year of patrol, and I played that year as well. So I don't know if I'm counting him in there as well.
You should, yeah.
Yeah, in addition to both coaches, like I said, that I have played with before in Philly, Saul Rushmeyer-Bailey last year commuted from New York to Boston to play Dig with me. And so now I'm coming back down there to play with him on Empire.
Yeah, certainly more has gone into that than just playing with Rushmeyer-Bailey. But going back to the college scene for you, Charles, let's start. A successful career at the University of Delaware, which is one of the better programs, certainly in the Northeast region, even if they don't have national championships. Currently is a team with an A team, a B team, and C team. And I mean, coming from that section or that region, sometimes even having that kind of depth can be helpful. But you were there from 2016 to 2012 to 2016, and then playing, as you mentioned, for Minnesota Grey Duck 16 and 17. The year after they won the championship, playing alongside Benyat, but also another Delaware guy in Wind Chill's Charlie McCutcheon, the Wind Chill's Cole Zurich, and Tony Paletto, and then Chicago's Sam Kaminsky. So a lot of AUDL players played on that Grey Duck team 16-17, again, following Ryan Osgar having won national championship, then leaving. So even though you did come up short in repeating as national champions, what was it about that program that set so many players up for success in the professional game?
It's just a fantastic program. The coach that year, Talis Boyd, really set up like a great system. And I just walked into it and it was just plug and play. I mean, everyone was there motivated to work and it was fantastic. And we made a pretty deep run too that year. Definitely lose some sleep over it here and there.
Yeah, and then Ethan, just comparing that to your time at Villanova, of course, Philadelphia, while none of those teams will say ascend into the national championship conversation, certainly there was a lot of competition with those different programs in the Philadelphia region.
Yeah, we produced a lot of talent out of the Philadelphia region. Players like David Shields now who's had a lot of success with the DC Prees, Nick DiGiorgio out of Westchester. Too many guys on Temple to name that now play for the Phoenix. So it's competitive in that area. And we, unlike Minnesota, started with a small program of 7 players and over my 4 years grew it to 55 players and went from last place at sectionals to top 4 regionals. So big growth in 4 years and looking for some continued success there.
Yeah, then Ethan, your ultimate career actually started before that. Your first introduction, at least to the AUDL, wasn't with being on the Phoenix in 2015. Instead, it was your brother Connor who played on the Rochester Dragons back in the day. So, how was your older brother's relationship, who is 2 years older, I believe, with the game, help shape your relationship with the game?
I would not be playing Ultimate right now if it wasn't for Connor. He got into it in high school before me, got me to throw before I showed up, kept trying to get me to come out to tryouts. We played together for 2 years in high school. And then I watched him go off to college, have a couple nice years with the Rochester Dragons and Brian Jones, who's a former coach of the Empire when he was up in Rochester as well. And then Connor and I haven't actually played together since then. It's been 6-7 years since we played together in high school, and I'm possibly looking forward to him joining us on the field this year.
Well, following that up, we got to speak in the last podcast. Sodom Worcestershire Bailey went to Amherst, which is obviously a powerhouse. It's a college team it's a high school team that can compete with college teams. But growing up in the Massachusetts area where Ultimate, we'll say, is a little bit more advanced than other parts in the country, what was that high school experience once you stepped into that world in what is, again, high school Boston Ultimate? And you could even compare the two, right, from 10 years ago to today and how far Boston Ultimate has come.
Yeah, I remember when I first started playing my freshman, sophomore year, we would do games in the week like any other like varsity sports team would, and we would travel an hour and a half to find like the nearest team. And then 2-3 years later, we could go 15 minutes down the road, find another high school with a team and start to play. So it was really competitive, 6-7 years ago, and it's just gotten even more competitive since then.
And then Charles, for you growing up in the Philadelphia area, what was your introduction to Ultimate?
Yeah, I actually got convinced to play high school Ultimate a little bit, Lower Merion. Some friends convinced me. I played like maybe a season and a half, but in that one season, it was just so much fun. Pennsylvania's got a good youth team too, so it's very competitive across the state. And then I was just pretty much hooked.
Yeah, certainly. And now just transitioning back to the AUDL now, as two big acquisitions, like that's a talking point. This is why your names are going to be on Twitter. It's why, even though I noticed both of you don't really react too much, you're not on social media too much, but at least the buzz is going on that there's two new players. There will be two new players for the Empire this year. And I think one of the conversations that the league has been having with these big free agent acquisitions on the offensive side of the disc this year, and this list via Daniel Cohen, of course, who works for the league, Bobby Lay going from Tampa Bay to Atlanta, Abe Coffin from Dallas to Minnesota, Jay Frood from Dallas to Colorado, Kyle Henke from Dallas to Austin, Jordan Kerr from Oakland to Salt Lake, Antoine Davis, of course, from Atlanta to the Empire, and then Keegan North from Chicago back to the Alley Cats, and Sean McDougal from LA to San Diego. That's a lot of star power going to new offensive starting lines. So many of those guys you can expect are going to jump right onto these O-lines. But it seems like the conversation, though, Ethan, particularly for you, is about D-line handlers. And it seems like the media, and I'd say myself included, yeah, we get more excited about the offensive additions, but the players on the teams, I should say, they're always talking about wanting D-line handlers. That's who the players actually want to bring into their team. And Ethan, you've been an O-line handler 2018 and 2019 for the Phoenix, and in 2015 for Philly and 2021 for Boston, you were a D-line handler. So why do you think the D-line handlers don't get that much love, but are also vital to winning a championship? And I say cough, cough, Eric Taylor for Raleigh for that one.
Yeah, I made the switch last year for Boston, like you said, from Philly, where I played more O-line. But I think from the outside perspective, it gets overlooked. It's, you're on the field a bit for your offense to help facilitate after a turn, but there are timeouts. And so you come off sometimes without getting the chance to play that. And then there's not as many big stats. When you look at the big stats in the AUDL, it's assists, goals, throwing yards, receiving yards. And that's all on the offensive side of the ball. There's no how many yards are you allowing per catch? How many times is your player touching the disc? It's very small stats on the defensive side. So I think that's why it gets overlooked from the outside. And then on the inside of the teams, players are always looking for more D-line handlers because D-lines get blocks, but they don't always convert. And so it's really nice to be able to bring in an offensive piece on the D-line who can help that defense punch in a break, save a timeout, and really win a game.
Have you found that there's different expectations from team to team with what those D-line handlers are expected to do?
Yeah, team to team and line to line. Sometimes you find that, if you're on a line with a lot of athletes as a D-line handler, you're expected to pick up the disc and within the first 3 throws, throw a hawk. And then other lines, there's a lot of confidence downfield, maybe some more skilled players, and your job is to facilitate and get the disc downfield. And then there are, different defensive types of handlers as well. So a lot of roles and responsibilities for that D-line position. And I think that's why it's so crucial.
Well, Charles, for you, I don't want to put you in a box here because you have been an O-line hybrid cutter for so much of your career. And when you look at the Empire O-line, we heard Ryan Holmes say it before, that I wouldn't consider the Empire O-line as just 7 players. It could be 9, 10 players, but you could also find yourself on the defensive side of the ball as well this season. So when you're looking at where you're going to fit in this Empire offense, especially again with a former teammate in Osgar than Jack Williams, are you excited to find where you fit in that O-line as well as figuring out where you might fit on a D-line?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the opportunity to play with them when it comes down to it. Like to continue playing O-line, kind of where I'm comfortable, and I've always loved being there. I think it just bringing my level of play up to where they are and facilitating whatever role they need as an extra player on that O-line is what I want to do and what I'm here to do. But yeah, the rotation with more than 7, I think it's a great idea in the AUDL, especially just with how long those games are, how much you have to run, like making sure that the O-line is rested and that they have resources to put people on the D-line. It goes really, really far in these games. And I think that is a great way to lead to success as well. So yeah, open to whatever, excited for that, excited for D-line, wherever they want to put me.
Yeah, certainly. And going through your highlights too, your continuation throws has been a marquee part of your game. And thinking about that Empire O-line with guys like Lithio, guys like Ben Yacht. And then, of course, the idea this year is you get a guy like Jack Williams and Osgar also going deep as well. Certainly some potential for some big plays there. Now, Ethan, we're going to just, again, make it a little bit, talk about some of the unfortunate parts of your career. And that is heading back to 2017, your senior year at Villanova, tearing your ACL. What was that recovery process like, and what did you learn from that entire experience?
Yeah, I tore my ACL my senior year of college at regionals in the last game of my senior year in soft cap. So it was like a bookmark on a whole college career. And I think it was, well, first off, it was the hardest recovery or hardest injury. And one of the hardest things I've had to deal with in my life. It was every day, 3 times a day for like 12 months to like just get back to running and the explosiveness. I tore my ACL, both meniscuses, and had some like other structural damage in there as well. But I think it really helped me transition my game from college to club. I like got in the habit of like being addicted to getting better, to like working out, to improving my game. And that's something I've kind of carried out of that injury. And I think it's helped me in the long run become a better player.
All right, and then moving back to the AUDL here in the division, the East Division, it's back to, we'll say back to normal, but Atlanta, Raleigh, they've got to worry about themselves in the South now again. Now, Ethan, you have ties to Boston and Philly and a COVID year with DC that I think, again, people forget because it's not on the stat sheet. And then, Charles, you have ties to the Phoenix. So starting with you, Charles, which teams are you most looking forward to playing the most? And I think especially for you, Charles, because coming from Minnesota, your only AUDL's experiences are against those teams in the Central.
Yeah, I mean, excited to always do a homecoming game down to Philadelphia, but I think DC has to be the most exciting team to play. I mean, they're very talented. You look for that competition, so excited for those games.
And Ethan?
Yeah, I've gotten to watch on TV the DC New York game or games every couple of years now that are just kind of go down to the wire, go down to OT. So I'm really looking forward to being a part of one of those. And then I have experienced losing a lot to Toronto. Phoenix got them their first 2 franchise wins against them in 2019. So looking to go up there and maybe have some more success as well.
Well, and then Ethan, for you, the teams that you've been on before in Boston and Philly, what are you expecting from what they were building last season and what they'll be this year? And I think, I don't want to lead you, but I think Tanner Johnson might be part of your answer.
Yeah, well, so I guess for Boston, it's always a very talented team. But one of their issues has been roster fluidity. And so, Tanner played 2 games, 1 game last year, got hurt, and then kind of was back for maybe the last game against New York. So assuming he's around, he's going to be a big piece for them. Ben Sadok, there's players to watch out for sure. Huge depth on that roster and a lot of talent. And it'll be who can they kind of get to game day. And And then for Philly, it's one of my favorite places to go play. I have so many friends back there. We talk a lot of trash. It is, as Charles said, it's more of a homecoming than Boston is because I'm not in that city anymore, and it's always exciting to be back there.
Yeah, and then Charles, for you with Philly, again, just kind of not a lot of overlap between the 2015 team and the Phoenix that exists today. Where do
Yeah.
you find the Phoenix in their road to making those improved steps? Because, I mean, for Ethan in particular, also having played for the Spinners in the past, the history of Philadelphia Ultimate, I mean, they were the first team to win the AUDL championship, the Spinners all the way back in the old heydays. But yeah, for you going back to Philly as well, how do you see their team continuing their project this season?
That's a tough one. I haven't followed them too closely being in Minnesota the last 5 years, but I mean, they always seem like a very young, energized team. They always they're going to give you their all. And there's still some guys on that team that I could chirp with and have some fun with on the field. So, yeah, wish them all the success. And they always seem like they're ready to fight.
And Charles, speaking of young teams, you did play, well, you've been playing with Sub-Zero, that being the club team in Minnesota, from 2017 all the way through 2021. And last year in particular, that Sub-Zero team was quite youthful, quite green, but also
Yeah.
they made some rumbles. They made some people talk about them at nationals. Where do you think your voice will be fitting in with the Empire, having taken on a different role with the Sub-Zero this season, especially with the Empire being an older team, if you will, in the league?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'm not really sure how if I can be the same exact leader I was with that Sub-Zero team. They were very young, but excited to find out and excited to help in any way I can if I have any help or advice, and also willing to get feedback from even older players who are more experienced. But yeah, that's gonna be something to figure out. We had our first practice last night, so maybe ask me in a couple months.
Well, I do want you to give a quick scouting report on Minnesota because leaving the wind chill, it seems like with Abe Coffin going there, of course, but still that young group, Nick Vogt, and that young group of Sub-Zero players meshing with some of the veterans from, talk about Josh Klain, the veterans from the Minnesota region. How do you think Minnesota is going to stack up this year in the Central?
Oh yeah, they really stacked that team. They also picked up a lot of players from Sub-Zero, seeing Tristan's Vandermortel's post today as well. So that roster is looking really good. Kind of again some FOMO moving away from it as well. And almost played with them again this year too. So definitely some FOMO there.
Well, let's head off the field. I think we've done enough ultimate, so we're going to get to know you guys a little bit better. We'll start with the really exciting parts of your jobs, and I think for Empire fans are getting kind of a theme here. I do ask a lot about engineering, and I'm going to do it again. Ethan, you are a software engineer. Charles is a mechanical engineer. So I keep having to come up with different questions for everybody, but I'm not asking which of you has the harder job. Everybody's job is hard in their own way. Your job is probably harder than mine. I will say that. But which job is more difficult of a road to break into, you think? Mechanical engineering or software engineering?
I would say mechanical engineering.
Yeah, right now, yeah. I feel like software engineering is very exciting and there's tons of jobs there.
Yeah, everybody's hiring, and you can get like a 2 to 3 month coding boot camp and go off and find a job and get in the field. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it actually sounds like the order might be, as far as easy to get into, software engineering, which helps you get in the AUDL, apparently, and then you get into mechanical engineering, of course. Okay, so the last segment of the show is, it kind of is a rapid fire lightning round type situation, but I'm going to get a little punny here. I'm calling this one New Kids Get the Block. You get it? You guys on D? All right. So the two new players for the Empire here in Ethan and Charles, we're going to do a number of different questions, either ors, and see where we can go from here. So you guys are making an insane commute from Boston. Oh, okay, not insane. Maybe Raleigh to New York, that's insane, or Florida to New York, that's insane. But Boston, there are trains, there are whatever's. But so Ethan coming from Arlington in Massachusetts, Charles coming from Somerville. So if you could travel down to New Rochelle, I mean, and you will, would you rather take the Polar Express or the train to Hogwarts? Charles?
Train to Hogwarts. I don't know if I can explain that one. That's just way cooler.
I'm gonna go the opposite. I'm gonna say the Polar Express. I don't think I get a lot of work done on the Hogwarts Express.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, it's tactical. It's
we do the commute a lot, so I'm gonna want a train that's a little more relaxed.
Yeah. Well, you gave me an adult answer, Ethan, for the last one, and Charles, you might have to sit this one out. But I have to ask for all of the two people listening to their old '90s game toys. But which is the better Beyblade as far as strategy, Ethan? Is it a big old one or a smaller one with sharp edges?
I think it's all about personality and how you kind of just feel. You got to really like feel the Beyblade and understand what's going on. But I prefer the big ones. Yeah, I'm just gonna let it rip and let it do its thing, and it's easier to control.
Does color matter?
Absolutely.
So is it the darker reds are more intimidating? Is that
It's flame stickers that you put on it.
Of course. All right. All right. Now, in your both of your, we'll say, your free time, you like to go hiking. And so the question would be, is it and again, both of you backgrounds in Pennsylvania, is it the Appalachian Mountains? Is it the Rockies? Or is there a fill in the blank as to your favorite hiking locations?
Yeah, when I was in Minnesota, I went out to Wyoming a lot. Really enjoyed the hiking there. Some of the like Tetons and Wind River Range was beautiful. But now that I'm in New England, really excited to explore the Appalachians and New Hampshire and all of these guys.
Yeah, nothing beats hiking out west in some of those bigger ranges, but my home mountain range is the White Mountains in New Hampshire. That's where I get away to every time I can.
Nice. And now back inside, I want you're both, again, this seems to be a theme with Ultimate players, but you're both board game aficionados. So give me your top 2 or 3 board games. And it could even be your favorites. It could be the ones that you're going to win. You can trick somebody into challenging a teammate into one that you might think you're a favorite in. So Ethan, top 2 or 3?
My favorite board game right now is Terraforming Mars, and Charles and I have played this one a bunch. It is a very complicated game that takes like 2 hours, but it's awesome and you feel like Elon Musk. And then my second favorite game is called Munchkin, and I actually built an online version of that during the pandemic that I used to get a job, or my current job. So,
cool.
Yeah.
And Charles?
Yeah, just a throwback Catan I love. In terms of games of all time, I really am into Seven Wonders Duel. It's just a 2-player game, but I feel like it's hard to come across really, really good 2-player games. And then new games, Terraforming Mars that Ethan showed me is awesome. It's just a huge commitment, but it's a great game.
Well, you cannot camp on Mars, but I want to ask, would you rather camp on a beach or would you rather go camping in the woods? You both do enjoy camping.
Camping in the woods. Yeah, just feels more secluded.
Yeah, if it's an uncrowded beach, wherever there's less people.
Yeah, that's a good point. Uncrowded beaches are
It's a remote beach. Yeah.
It's softer. It's softer.
All right, now here's the big one. This is the one that I think we've all been waiting for. I know, Ethan, because you're in Massachusetts, you might actually have to say this or else you'll be in a little bit of trouble. Then Charles, living in Massachusetts, is it Dunkin' Donuts or is it Wawa?
Oh, it's Wawa. It's always Wawa. I mean,
It's Wawa.
It's been Wawa my whole life. And I get ridiculed for that a lot, but sticking by it.
Yeah. It's Wawa, and I know that it's Wawa because when I have friends from Boston come down and visit me when I was in Philly, I couldn't explain to them what the store was like. It's not like a 7-Eleven. It's not like a Cumberland Farms. Like, it's its own thing, and it's really good. And you take someone there, and they think the food's going to be horrible, and they go back every day after that.
Yeah. I die inside a little bit when someone calls it a gas station. Just a gas station.
Well, this is definitely a safe space. Yeah, it's pretty insane when I tell people that I had never gotten gas at Wawa for the first 5 years of going to Wawa. And they said, so why are you going there? And I actually don't drink coffee either. So it's just people can't understand. But, yeah, there's something about that touchscreen and ordering a sandwich. Yeah. Okay, so as far as Ethan trying out for the Empire with your ultimate skills, it seemed to do you well. But are you taking up the challenge of pickleball or basketball? And a follow-up to that is we've heard about the legendary Empire basketball team. So if you were trying to add depth to that fabled basketball team, what position are you going to play?
I play a really good 1 or 2 guard. I played point guard in high school. So I'm a really good distributor, very good slasher. But I also know how to work off ball and get my shot open. So if they need a point guard or a shooting guard, call me up.
And then Charles, the same question for you, but this is now for the hypothetical soccer, wrestling, or baseball Empire team.
If they set up a softball team or a baseball team, I'm in. I can be their star shortstop.
And then the last question is a more serious question. Ethan, you kind of already answered this with basketball a little bit. And then Charles, I think soccer might be the best of the ones with baseball and wrestling of the three. But how did those skills and those athletic skills, if any, help you transition into ultimate, Charles?
Yeah, I don't know if those specific sports helped a lot. I think just those are the ones I played in high school, but just playing a ton of different sports as I grew up really helped. So just drawing different skills or footworks from everything. Played a little bit of squash here and there, played some basketball here and there, and just pulling from each one.
Then Ethan?
Yeah, I think strategically basketball and ultimate are very similar. You have like drawn up schemes of where players are supposed to go, but it's all reactionary. And so like nothing's prescribed like football is, where you just are reacting more so to the defense. And then I think I take a lot of my handler space footwork from basketball, defensively and offensively, and using my body to get separation when I'm cutting. I take from basketball as well.
All right. Well, everybody's looking forward to seeing Charles Weinberg and Ethan Fortin as members of the New York Empire this season. Both of them, their first year with the New York Empire, but again, they are veterans of the AUDL. So Charles, Ethan, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Dan.
And thanks to you, the listeners, as this wraps up another edition of the New York Empire podcast. From the entire New York Empire family, we'll talk to you soon.